The notification pinged at exactly 7:41 a.m. on a Tuesday in mid-October. Subject line: urgent, termination notice, immediate effect. Aaliyah Jackson froze mid-swipe on her cracked iPhone screen. She was standing in the dim fluorescent light of the 42nd floor supply closet at Apex Global Tower in Midtown Manhattan, mop handle still in one hand, the other clutching a half-empty bottle of industrial lemon cleaner. The air smelled like bleach and old coffee grounds. She opened the email anyway. 3 short paragraphs, no greeting, no signature from a human being, just boilerplate legalese, violation of performance standards, immediate separation, attach waiver for 2 weeks severance sign within 48 hours or forfeit. Aaliyah read it once, then again, slower. Her thumb hovered over the attachment like it might bite. She wasn't shocked, not really. She had felt this coming for months. Free time, an executive stepped over her yellow wet floor sign without looking down. Every time someone left a half-eaten sandwich on the conference table for her to clean up at 2 a.m. Every time the security guard at the lobby desk asked for her badge, even though he saw her 5 nights a week. Invisible. That was the word. 3 years as the night shift janitor, and she had become part of the furniture. The kind of furniture people wipe their shoes on. But today wasn't supposed to end like this. Today, the board of directors would convene at 9 a.m. sharp in the glass-walled executive boardroom to vote on the biggest merger in Apex Global's history. A $1.2 billion deal with a European tech conglomerate that would catapult the stock price into the stratosphere. And today, right now, your Jackson owned 51.4% of the outstanding shares. No one knew. Not Ethan Caldwell, the Golden Boys CEO who had just signed off on her firing. Not the board members who flew in from Dubai, London, and San Francisco. Not the HR VP who probably typed the termination email herself while sipping oat milk latte. Not even the night security guard who sometimes slipped her an extra granola bar from the break room. She had kept it hidden for years. A Delaware LLC with a bland name, Jackson Legacy Holdings, LLC. Proxy votes filed electronically. No photo, no face, no voice on the quarterly calls. Numbers climbing quietly in the background while she scrubbed toilets and polished glass conference tables. Aaliyah folded the printed emails. She always printed important things. A habit from a mom who said paper docent tea lie and slipped it into the front pocket of her navy blue uniform. The fabric was thin, worn at the elbows from years of reaching and bending. She looked at the clock on the wall. 7:49 a.m. The executive wing would start filling soon. Assistants arriving with coffee trays. Board members in tailored suits checking their phones. Ethan Caldwell probably already in his corner office, practicing his merger speech in front of a mirror. Aaliyah pushed her cleaning cart out of the supply closet. The wheels squeaked on the marble floor. She didn't bother oiling them anymore. The sound had become her signature, a quiet announcement that the night crew was still here, still working, still unseen. But today, she wasn't heading to the lower floors like usual. She turned to left instead of right, toward the executive corridor, past the frosted glass doors etched with the Apex Global logo, past the receptionist's desk that would be empty for another 10 minutes. Her heart beat steady, not fast, not panicked, just ready. She stopped outside the main boardroom doors. They were closed, but she could hear muffled voices inside a Thieves baritone cutting through. Something about efficiency and trimming excess. Aaliyah placed one hand on the door handle. Cold, metal, solid. She took a breath that tasted like lemon cleaner impossibility. Then she pushed the door open. The room went quiet mid-sentence. 50 faces turned. Suits, watches, expensive pens paused over legal pads. Ethan Caldwell stood at the head of the table, laser pointer in hand, mid-slide on the merger presentation. His eyes narrowed when he saw her. "Who the hell are you?" he snapped. And why are you in here with a mop? Aaliyah stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her. My name is Aaliyah Jackson, she said, voice clear and even. I'm the night janitor you just fired by email. A ripple of confusion crossed the room. Ethan laughed, one short, sharp, disbelieving. Then you know where the exit is? Sign the waiver on your way out. We have real business to handle. Aaliyah didn't move. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and opened the Shareholder registry app she had bookmarked years ago. She turned the screen toward him. Before I go, she said quietly, you might want to look at this. The numbers glowed on the screen. 51.4%. Jackson Legacy Holdings. Aaliyah Jackson. Beneficial owner. Ethan's face changed. First, confusion. Then, recognition. Then, something close to fear. The laser pointer slipped from his fingers and clattered on the table. Aaliyah met his eyes. You said people like me don't fight back. Well, people like me just bought controlling interest in your company now. Ethan, shall we start the meeting properly? Aaliyah Jackson wasn't born to own companies, okay? She was born to survive them. Detroit, Michigan. Winter 1998. A small 2-bedroom apartment on the east side. Heat that worked only when it felt like it. Windows taped with plastic to keep the wind out. Her mom, Tanya Jackson, 28 at the time, worked double shifts as a nurse's aide at Detroit Receiving Hospital. 12-hour days turning into 16 when someone called in sick. She came home smelling like antiseptic and exhaustion, feet swollen, hands cracked from too much sanitizer. Aaliyah was 5 the first time she remembered seeing her mom cry. Not loud sobs, just quiet tears while staring at a stack of medical bills on the kitchen table. Baby, sometimes life hits you where you're already down, Tanya whispered, wiping her face with the back of her sleeve. But we don't stay down. We get up, every single time. That became the family mantra. Get up, every single time. School was Aaliyah's escape. She was the quiet girl in the back row who finished math worksheets before the teacher finished explaining them. Teachers noticed. One of them, Mrs. Ramirez, in 4th grade, slipped her library books on business and investing. Simple ones at first, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad 4 Kids versions. Then more advanced stuff by middle school. Aaliyah read them under the covers with a flashlight after her mom fell asleep on the couch. By high school, she was taking AP classes, working part-time at a corner store after school to help with rent. She dreamed of college, maybe business school, maybe finance, something that would let her pull her mom out of that hospital grind. Then, senior year happened. Tanya slipped on a wet floor during a night shift. No one had put up a warning sign. Fractured hip, surgery, complications. No workers' comp because the hospital claimed negligence on her part. Insurance denied most of it. Bills piled up like snowdrifts. Aaliyah was 18 when her mom died, 2 weeks after graduation. The funeral was small church basement, folding chairs, a photo of Tanya smiling in her nurse scrubs. Afterward, Aaliyah sat alone in the empty apartment, staring at the stack of bills that now had her name on them too. She could have given up. Most people would have. Instead, she got a night janitorial job at Apex Global's old downtown office. $14.50 an hour. Graveyard shift. She told herself it was temporary just until she saved enough to start community college part-time. But life has a way of stretching temporary into years. She enrolled online anyway. Business administration courses at Wayne State, paid for with Pell Grants and whatever was left after bills. She studied in the quiet hours between emptying trash cans and buffing floors. Laptop balanced on a cleaning cart, earbuds in, watching finance lectures while the city slept. One night in 2019, while mopping the executive hallway, she overheard 2 VPs talking about Apex's upcoming private investment round. They were laughing about how retail investors wouldn't get into small, too late. But Aaliyah listened. She went home that morning and researched. The minimum buy-in was $5,000. She had $4,800 saved in a coffee can under her bed. Every extra dollar from skipped lunches, no vacations, no new clothes. She sold her mom's old car for the last $200, borrowed $1,000 from a coworker at 18% interest. She wired it all, bought in through a discount broker that allowed fractional shares in private rounds. Then she waited. The stock didn't move much at first. Then the pandemic hit. Remote work exploded. Apex's cloud and cybersecurity division became essential. The valuation doubled, tripled. Aaliyah reinvested every dividend. She learned options trading on paper first, then small, real trades. She spotted patterns in the filings, quiet acquisitions, executive stock sales, insider buys. She bought more when others panicked. By 2022, she had 12%. 2023, 38%. Last year, in a confidential secondary offering, she crossed 51%. She never told anyone, not her coworkers, not her old high school friends who thought she was still just cleaning. She kept the uniform on, kept pushing the cart, kept smiling politely when executives ignored her, because invisibility was her armor and silence was her weapon. Now, standing in that boardroom doorway with 50 stunned faces staring back, Aaliyah felt the armor crack opened just enough to let the light in. She looked at Ethan Caldwell, still frozen with the laser pointer dangling from his limp fingers. "You have the floor, Mr. Caldwell," she said calmly. "Would you prefer I take it?" The room held its breath. The boardroom felt smaller the second the door clicked shut behind Aaliyah. Air thicker, lights harsher, every breath audible. Ethan Caldwell recovered. First door tried to. He straightened his tie, forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and gestured toward the door like she was a lost delivery person. "It's Jackson, right? This is a private executive session. Security will escort you out. We can discuss your concerns through proper HR channels." He nodded toward the HR VP, who was already reaching for her phone under the table. Aaliyah didn't flinch. She walked forward 3 steps slow, deliberate until she stood at the edge of the long mahogany table. The same table she had wiped down 1,000 times at 3 a.m. Removing fingerprints, coffee rings, crumbs from catered lunches no one ever offered her. "I'm not here for HR," she said. "I'm here because I own the company, and I'm not leaving until the agenda changes." Harold Vance, the board chairman, leaned forward. 68 years old, silver hair, voice like gravel from decades of cigars and negotiations. "Miss Jackson, if what you're claiming is true, and I'm pulling up the registry right now, then yes, you have controlling interest, okay? But this is highly irregular. You've never attended a meeting, never identified yourself. We need verification." Aaliyah placed her phone face up on the table. The Shareholder app was already open to the verified ownership dashboard, blockchain timestamped, set filed, irrevocable. She tapped once. A PDF popped up. The full cap table, her LLC at the top with 51.4%. "Verification is right there," she said. "Cross-check with the transfer agent. They'll confirm in under 2 minutes." Several board members pulled out laptops and tablets. Keyboards clacked. Phones buzzed with incoming texts from assistants outside the room. Ethan's face had gone from pale to blotchy red. He slammed his palm on the table hard enough to make water glasses jump. "This is absurd. She's a janitor. She mops floors. She probably stole credentials or hacked the system. This is fraud." Aaliyah met his glare without blinking. "I bought every share legally, with money I earned cleaning your floors, while you were selling off chunks of your own position to fund your Hamptons weekends. I have the form for filings if you'd like to see them." She swiped on her phone again. Another PDF. Ethan's insider sales over the last 18 months, $42 million worth, quietly divested before the merger announcement. The room inhaled collectively. One board member, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, named Priya Patel, tech investor from Silicon Valley, spoke up. Those sales, they were disclosed, but the timing is aggressive. Ms. Jackson, do you have more? Aaliyah nodded. I have broker confirmations. Email threads between Ethan and his personal accountant discussing how to structure the sales to minimize taxes and avoid triggering SEC flags. They are saved, dated, and I've already forwarded copies to my legal counsel. Ethan lunged forward, voice cracking. You're bluffing. You think you can walk in here in a uniform and take over? Aaliyah's voice stayed level, almost gentle. I didn't come to take over. I came because you fired me this morning without cause. Cause? Because you called me a liability and said people like me daren't fight. Cause? For 3 years, I've listened to you talk about efficiency and trimming fat while the people who actually keep this building running can afford rent in the city they clean. She looked around. The table really looked. The men and women who had approved bonus pools in the millions while cutting night shift overtime. I own 51.4%. That means I can call a special shareholders meeting, replace the board, replace the CEO, or we can talk right now about real change. Harold Vance raised a hand for silence. Jackson has the floor. Ethan, sit down. Ethan didn't sit. He paced, sweat beading on his forehead despite the AC. Aaliyah continued. First item, rescind my termination. Second, table the merger vote until we review the terms with full shareholder input, not just the C-suite. Third, launch an employee stock ownership plan for all staff below director level, starting with custodial maintenance, security, and cafeteria workers. They've earned equity in the company they literally hold together. Priya Patel nodded slowly. Reasonable. But what about your role, Ms. Jackson? Leah paused. For the first time, a small smile touched her lips, not triumphant, just tired. I don't want your titles. I want a seat at this table. Not because I crave power, because I want to make sure no one else gets treated like I was. And then, I'm going back to my shift. There's still coffee to clean in conference room 3. A nervous chuckle escaped someone, then another. Ethan exploded. This is blackmail. She's holding the company hostage. Aaliyah turned to him. Quiet. Final. No, Ethan. This is accountability. It's the kind you never thought you'd have to face. Now, who here wants to vote on the new agenda? Hands started rising, slowly at first, then faster. Ethan watched his empire slip away one raised hand at a time. The hands kept rising, not all at once, not in a dramatic wave, but one by one, slow, deliberate, like dominoes deciding to fall. Priya Patel raised hers first, then a venture capitalist from New York, then to institutional investors who had been quiet until now. Harold Vance watched the tally with raised eyebrows, then lifted his own hand last. Ethan Caldwell stood alone, his face a mask of fury and calculation. He looked around the room as if expecting anyone to back him. No one did. Motion carries, Harold said quietly. Termination rescinded. Merger tabled. New agenda, employee equity program and full shareholder review. Ms. Jackson, you have the floor for opening remarks. Aaliyah didn't sit yet. She remained standing, hands clasped in front of her like she was still holding a mop handle. Thank you, she said. But before we talk numbers and votes, I want to tell you why this matters to me. Not the shares, not the money, the people. She paused. The room waited. 3 years ago, my first week here, I was assigned to clean the executive gym at 4 a.m. I found Ethan's personal trainer waiting outside the door. He looked at me, smirked, and said, "Hey girl, make sure you scrub the showers good. We don't want the boss slipping on your kind of dirt." A few board members shifted uncomfortably. Aaliyah continued, voice steady. I smiled, said yes sir, and scrubbed until my knuckles bled, as I needed the job. Flashback cut in her mind like a movie reel. The same gym, same early morning. Ethan walking in after his workout, toweled around his neck, not even glancing at her as she mopped sweat from the benches. He dropped his empty water bottle on the floor, right in front of her, on purpose. It rolled to her feet. He stepped over it without a word. Another memory. Christmas party 2 years back. She was on overtime, cleaning up after the catered event. Executives laughing, champagne flowing. One VP, now retired, spilled red wine on the carpet and yelled, "Janitor, get over here." When she arrived with a spot cleaner, he laughed to his friends. "Look at her hustle. Bet she dreams of being us one day." They all laughed. Aaliyah cleaned in silence. Went home at dawn, smelling like wine and shame. Back in the present, she looked at Ethan. "You never saw me. None of you did. I was the shadow that made your world shine. The one who emptied your trash so you didn't have to look at your own waste. And you thanked me by firing me over email." Ethan tried to interrupt. "Miss Jackson, this is," she held up a hand. "Not aggressive, just firm." "I'm not done." She turned to the board. "I've watched every earnings call from the hallway, heard every promise about culture and diversity. But when the cameras were off, culture was clear. Some people belong at the table, others belong under it." Priya Patel spoke again. "What are you proposing specifically for the equity program?" Aaliyah pulled a folded paper from her uniform pocket, the same pocket where she kept the termination email. She unfolded it, a simple one-page outline she had written months ago during a slow shift. "Tiered grants. All full-time staff below director level get RSUs worth at least $25,000 vesting over 4 years. Custodial, maintenance, and support roles get priority top-up grants up to $75,000 total. Immediate vesting acceleration for employees with 10+ years. No clawbacks, no performance strings attached to people who already show up every day." Murmurs of approval. Harold nodded slowly. "That's generous, but feasible. We can fund it from the merger synergies." Ethan laughed bitterly. "You're insane. This will tank the stock. Investors will flee." Aaliyah looked at him. "The stock rose 320% in the last 3 years while I cleaned your offices. It didn't tank when you gave yourself a $15 million bonus last year. It won't tank because the people who make the company run get a fair share." She paused. "Let me be clear. I'm not here to destroy Apex. I'm here to fix it. 'Cause I believe in what this company could be. We stopped treating the foundation like dirt." Priya raised her hand again. "I move to approve the outline as presented and form a committee with Ms. Jackson as chair to finalize its details." Seconded. Voted. Passed. Ethan's shoulders slumped. He looked smaller, defeated. Aaliyah finally took a seat at the far end of the table, not the head. "Okay," but every eye followed her. Harold cleared his throat. "Ms. Jackson, do you have anything else?" She looked around the room, the faces that had ignored her for years. Now, looking back, "Yes," she said softly. "I want to clock out at 6 a.m. like always, 'cause my shift isn't over. And tomorrow night, I'll be back with the mop. It's like before. But from now on, you'll know who's holding it." The room erupted in quiet, stunned applause. Not thunderous, respectful, real. Ethan sat down, silent. For the first time in his career, he had nothing to say. Aaliyah didn't wait for the formal end of the meeting. She rose slowly, as if the weight of the last few minutes still rested on her shoulders. "Okay." The respectful applause continued as she walked to the door. No one tried to stop her, not even Ethan, who now sat staring at the table, fists clenched over papers he could no longer read. When the door closed behind her, the hallway felt longer than ever. Her cleaning cart was still parked against the wall, right where she left it. The wheel squeaked as she pushed it back toward the service elevator. She pressed the button for the sub-leveled floor of the support staff locker rooms. The elevator descended in silence, accompanied only by the hum of fluorescent lights. In a locker room, she changed out of her uniform into civilian clothes, worn jeans, gray hoodie, old sneakers. She looked in the cracked mirror, the same face as always, but something in her eyes had shifted, not pride. Relief mixed with exhaustion. She hung the uniform in her locker, the same locker she'd used for 3 years, and exited through the back door, straight into the cold Manhattan morning air. The internal announcement came at 10:17 a.m., a company-wide email blast, signed by Harold Vance as interim chairman. Subject: Important update on leadership and corporate culture. The text was short, but every word carried weight. Today, Apex Global confirmed a significant change in shareholding structure. Ms. Aaliyah Jackson, majority shareholder, has assumed effective control of the company. CEO Ethan Caldwell has been removed from his duties with immediate effect. Full review of governance and employee programs is underway. Further details will be shared shortly. We thank you for your continued patience and commitment. On the lower floors, the email landed like a silent bomb. In the staff break room, the cleaning crew stopped stirring their coffee. Maria, the 54-year-old veteran who cleaned the 18th floor for 19 years, read the email on her phone and let her spoon clatter to the floor. It's her, Aaliyah from Knights. Someone nodded. Tears came before anyone could speak. In the basement, the security guard who used to slip Aaliyah extra granola bars read the email 3 times. Then he texted the support staff WhatsApp group. Y'all, the janitor became the owner. Like, actual owner. Messages flew, shock emojis, fireworks, hearts. Someone posted an old photo of her pushing the cart down the hallway, captioned, "Queen in disguise." Meanwhile, Aaliyah walked through Midtown streets, not heading home, not yet. She stopped at a small cafe on 6th Avenue, ordered a plain black tea, and sat in the corner booth. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Co-workers, acquaintances, unknown numbers. She silenced everything. She needed a moment. Flashback, 2 months after her mother's death. Aaliyah, 18, sitting in the empty kitchen in Detroit. Lights cut off again. She lit a candle and opened her laptop, the only thing left. She searched how to invest with little money. Read about stocks, funds, compounding. If I start now, she thought, maybe one day I can pay all this off. She began with $50 a month, was left after rent and bills. Worked 2 jobs, night cleaning, daytime cashier, slept 4 hours a night. Studied on the bus during lunch breaks between scrubbing floors. One night, on the subway ride home, she cried silently. The elderly man next to her asked if she was okay. She shook her head. My mom died, and I don't know if I can make it. He placed a hand on her shoulder. You already made it. You're still breathing. The rest is just time. Aaliyah kept those words like a talisman. Back in the present, she finished her tea, paid in cash, old habit, walked to the subway on a crowded train. No one recognized her. She was just another person heading home. But when she reached her small Brooklyn studio apartment, 1 room, with a view of a brick wall, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. It's Jackson. This is Priya Patel from the board. We'd like to schedule a meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. You're chairing the equity committee. And thank you for everything. Aaliyah smiled for the first time that day. I'll be there. She hung up, looked at the photo of her mother on the wall, Tanya, smiling in her nurse scrubs. I did it, Mom, she whispered. But there's still a lot of floors to clean. The first 30 days after the board meeting were a controlled whirlwind. Aaliyah didn't move into the executive floor. She kept the small makeshift office in the sublevel of former storage closet for cleaning supplies. Kenny had a second-hand desk, a company laptop, Kenna an ergonomic chair that Priya Patel personally ordered and delivered with a note. You deserve to sit properly while changing the world. The equity committee met 3 times a week at 8 a.m. before regular business hours. Aaliyah chaired from the corner, usually in jeans and a hoodie. The members, a mix of HR directors, board investors, union reps, and 3 elected frontline employees, arrived nervous on day 1. They left inspired by the last. The program was named Legacy Shares. It wasn't just a catchy title. It was a promise. Every person who contributed to Apex deserved a piece of the legacy they helped build. Final details. Initial RSUs worth $30,000 for all full-time employees. Low manager-level vesting over 4 years. Extra top-up grants up to $20,000 for support roles cleaning, security, cafeteria with 5 years of service. Full vesting acceleration for anyone with 10 years. $5 million emergency fund for interest-free loans, housing assistance, and hardship support for frontline staff. Employee committee with real veto power on decisions directly affecting lower-level workers. On the day of the official internal announcement, a company-wide live-stream broadcast to every office, Aaliyah appeared on video for the first time. Plain white shirt, hair tied back, neutral background. She spoke for exactly 7 minutes. I know what it's like to wake up at 3 a.m., to come to work while the rest of the city sleeps. I know what it's like to watch executives walk past you without a good morning. I know what it's like to feel your work is essential, but your voice is not. Today, that changes. You are not support. You are owners. Hey, and I'm here to make sure no one ever forgets that. The stream ended with virtual applause, hearts, raised hand emojis, and fire filling the chat. Messages poured in. I cried in the bathroom. My daughter can go to college now. Thank you, queen of the night shift. Impacts came fast. Maria, the 19-year veteran of the 18th floor, received her grant notification and FaceTimed her daughter immediately. Mia, I'm a shareholder in Apex now. Me, who came from Puerto Rico with 1 suitcase and a dream. Her daughter cried. Maria cried. Her 8-year-old grandson asked, Abuela, are you rich now? Maria laughed. Not rich, but free. In the basement, the security guard who used to slip Aaliyah granola bars found her in the hallway one night. He removed his cap. I always knew there was something different about you. Now I understand. Aaliyah smiled. Aaliyah smiled. You gave me food when I didn't have energy to buy any. Now it's my turn to give back. Flashback, winter 2020. Aaliyah, 22, in her freezing Brooklyn apartment. She had just paid the final hospital bill from her mother's illness. $0 left in the account. Real hunger not. I'm craving something nice, but the kind that makes your stomach cramp. She skipped meals to save money, picked up extra shifts. One night, after 16 hours straight, she fainted on the subway, woke up with a stranger offering her water. You need to eat, girl. She shook her head. I don't have money. He bought her a sandwich anyway. Someone did this for me once. Now it's your turn to pay it forward. Aaliyah ate, crying on the train. She kept the empty wrapper as a reminder. Kindness circulates. Back in the present, she led quietly. She didn't give orders. She asked questions. How does this affect the night shift cleaners? What about weekend workers? What about single mothers? The board noticed. She didn't want power. She wanted fairness. Meanwhile, the story leaked. First, on LinkedIn, an anonymous employee post. Then on Twitter, now X. Hashtag Apex Janitor CEO started trending. Local news picked it up. CNBC ran a short segment, From Janitor to Majority Shareholder, the unlikely rise of Aaliyah Jackson. She turned down every interview request. It's not about me, she told the PR coordinator. It's about them. But one night, alone in her tiny sub-level office, she opened the old termination email again. Read it slowly, smiled, whispered to herself, they fired me. But I rehired myself, and she kept working. Because legacy doesn't stop when you reach the top. It begins there. 6 months after that fateful boardroom morning, Apex Global wasn't just a changed company, it was a blueprint. The Legacy Shares program expanded beyond the initial rollout. Aaliyah pushed for a national pilot, partnerships with other Fortune 500 companies to replicate the model in their own support staff. 3 major firms signed on within the first quarter to tech giants and a retail chain, each committing $50 million seed funds matched by Apex. The program now had a formal name outside the company walls. Foundation Floor Initiative. Aaliyah chose the name herself because the strongest buildings are built on the foundation floor. She explained in the first press release she ever approved. And we've been stepping on ours for too long. Public reaction exploded. The initial CNBC segment turned into a 20-minute feature on 60 Minutes. The host asked the obvious question: how does a night janitor become the majority shareholder of a billion-dollar company? Aaliyah's answer was quiet, measured. I didn't become anything. I was always here. I just stopped being invisible. The clip went viral. #FoundationFloor trended worldwide for weeks. TikTok filled with videos of cleaners, security guards, cafeteria workers holding up their grant notifications, captioning, "From mopping to owning." LinkedIn became a flood of frontline employees sharing stories. "I've worked here 22 years and never had stock. Now my kids have college funds." Celebrities reposted. Activists called it the quietest revolution in corporate America. Even late-night shows ran segments mostly respectful. A few poking fun at Ethan's fall from grace. He had disappeared from public view after a quiet resignation settlement. No golden parachute, just standard severance. Rumors said he was consulting in Dubai. No one at Apex missed him. Inside the company, culture shifted in small, profound ways. Executives now said good morning to the night crew. Conference rooms stayed cleaner not because of fear, but because people started noticing who cleaned them. The executive gym installed a thank you wall, handwritten notes from C-suite members to the custodial team. One read, "To Maria, thank you for making my mornings possible. I see you now." Aaliyah still clocked in some nights. Not every shift, but enough. She'd push the cart down quiet hallways, mop floors she used to clean in silence. Employees would stop and talk to her now, not as the boss, but as one of them. She listened more than she spoke, and when she left at dawn, she always left the floors shining. Symbolic ties grew too. She launched an annual Foundation Day at Apex headquarters, a block party open to the public in Midtown. Food trucks, live music, free financial literacy workshops. The main stage featured stories from frontline workers. Maria spoke the first year. "I used to think my job was to disappear. Now I know it's to build something that lasts." Aaliyah never took the spotlight. She stood in the back, hoodie up, watching people laugh and eat and connect. One little girl, maybe Nina, approached her with a drawing. A woman in a uniform holding a giant building like a toy. "Is this you?" the girl asked. Aaliyah knelt. "Hey, yeah, sweetheart, that's me." She signed the drawing with a simple Aaliyah and added, "Keep building your own." Flashback, the night before her mother's funeral. Aaliyah sat on the floor of their Detroit apartment, surrounded by boxes of her mom's things. She found an old notebook in Nia's handwriting, pages of budgets, prayers, dreams. One entry from years earlier. "Aaliyah is smart. She'll do things I never could. But I want her to remember. Dante climbs so high, you forget the people on the ground. They're the ones holding the ladder." Aaliyah had cried until there were no tears left. Then she taped that page to her mirror, read it every morning before work. It became her compass. Back in the present, on Foundation Day evening, Aaliyah stood alone on the rooftop terrace of Apex Tower. The city lights stretched out below like a sea of possibilities. She pulled out her phone and opened a photo. Her mother, young, smiling in nurse scrubs, holding baby Aaliyah. "I didn't forget, Mom," she whispered to the wind. "I brought the ladder down, okay? And now everyone can climb." She slipped the phone back into her pocket, looked at the skyline one more time, then walked to the elevator. Tomorrow was another day, another floor to clean, another life to lift. Because legacy isn't a destination, it's the floors you refuse to let stay dirty. 2 years to the day after Aaliyah walked into that boardroom, Apex Tower hosted its second annual Foundation Day block party. Midtown Manhattan closed off 3 blocks. Food trucks lined the streets. Live jazz floated from a stage built right in front of the building's main entrance. Thousands showed up: employees, families, neighbors, strangers who had followed the story online. Red wristbands with the words foundation floor were handed out at every corner. People tied them on like quiet promises. Aaliyah didn't speak from the main stage. She never did. Instead, she stood near the back of the crowd in her usual hoodie, watching. Kia was on stage now, microphone in hand, telling the story of her first grant check and how it paid off her daughter a student loans. The crowd cheered. Leah smiled quietly, tears in her eyes she didn't bother hiding. Then something unexpected happened. A group of custodial workers from all 3 shifts walked up to the stage carrying a large, framed photo. It was Aaliyah Jackson, her mother smiling in nurse scrubs, holding baby Aaliyah. They had found the photo in an old company newsletter from years ago. Tanya had worked temp shifts at the building's medical office decades earlier. They enlarged it, framed it in simple black wood, and added a small plaque to Aaliyah Jackson, the original foundation floor. She raised a daughter who lifted us all. They placed it on an easel at the center of the stage. The crowd went silent. Then someone started clapping. It spread. Soon the entire block was applauding, not for Aaliyah, but for the woman who never got to see this day. Aaliyah stepped forward slowly. The crowd parted. She reached the stage, touched the frame gently, and whispered something only she could hear. Then she turned to the microphone, first time ever. My mom used to say, Don T climbs so high, you forget the people on the ground. Never forgot. And today, I want to thank every single person who held my ladder when I couldn't reach. You didn't know you were doing it, but you were. Every good morning you said, when no one else did. Every extra shift you covered. Every floor you cleaned so someone else could shine. This isn't my victory. It's ours. She stepped back. No bows, no tears on camera. Just a nod, and she melted back into the crowd. The impact had grown massive. Legacy Shares was now in 47 companies across 12 countries. Over 1.2 million frontline workers had received equity grants totaling $4.8 billion in value. Employee turnover in participating firms dropped 62%. Productivity rose. Innovation spiked because people who feel owned think like owners. Harvard Business Review published a 40-page case study. The Foundation Floor Effect, How Ownership Transformed a Fortune 500 Giant. Aaliyah was invited to speak at Davos, the UN, and the White House. She went to one, declined the rest. Talk is cheap, she told her team. Floors don't clean themselves. One quiet evening, months later, Aaliyah returned to the 42nd floor alone. The building was dark, except for emergency lights. She pushed her old cart one last time, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She mopped the executive hallway slowly, methodically, every stroke deliberate. When she reached the boardroom door, she stopped, opened it, walked inside. The mahogany table gleamed under the moonlight. She placed a single red wristband on the center of the table, tied it in a loose knot. Then she left the door open, walked to the window, looked out at the city that once ignored her. Now it knew her name. Flashback final. Her mother's last coherent words in the hospital bed. Tanya squeezed Aaliyah's hand. Baby, promise me one thing. When you make it, don't forget to bring somebody else with you. Aaliyah had promised, and she kept it. Back in the present, she turned off the lights and left the building. The wristband stayed on the table. A quiet symbol, a kept promise, kept high. If you're watching this right now, and someone has ever made you feel invisible, if they've overlooked your work, undervalued your hours, stepped over you like you were part of the floor, remember Aaliyah Jackson. Remember that empires can be built from the basement up. That power doesn't always announce itself with a suit and a title. Sometimes it arrives with a mop. Sometimes it whispers while the world shouts. Sometimes it waits years in silence, stacking one share, one shift, one lesson at a time. Your ladder is being held by people you may never notice, but they notice you. And one day, when you're ready, you can reach down, pull someone else up, Change the rules. Rewrite the story. Because the foundation floor isn't the bottom, it's the beginning. Share this if you've ever felt unseen. Save it if you're building in silence right now. Comment the name of one person who needs to hear this today. Tie a red band around your wrist if you promise to lift someone when your turn comes. Your moment is coming. Hold the ladder steady. And when you get to the top, don't forget to look down. Thank you for watching. Now go clean your floor, okay? And build something unbreakable.